What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. In this video, we're going to be comparing my 2024 Model 3 rear-wheel drive to my uncle's brand new 2024 Model Y Performance. This wind and my hair do not mix. So here to my left, I have a 2024 Tesla Model Y Performance. This is in solid black with the white interior. And then on my right here, I have a 2024 Tesla Model 3 rear-wheel drive, and it is in stealth gray with the black interior. Now, as far as the wheels for both of these models, the Model Y here is sitting on 21-inch Uber turbine wheels. They're a beautiful looking wheel, very solid feeling. And you can obviously see the performance brake calipers popping through the back there in that nice red color. Over here on my 2024 Model 3 rear-wheel drive, I just have the 18-inch Photon wheels with the aero covers. Now you can take those aero caps off, and there is a pretty nice looking wheel back there as well. This goes without saying, but the 2024 Model Y is yet to be refreshed like this Model 3 just has been. So there's going to be some differences there visually. Obviously, you can see right off the bat the headlights is a difference, but we expect in 2025, when the Model Y, codenamed Juniper, is finally revealed, that it will be similar in styling and material quality as this new Model 3 is. So some of the things that I mentioned in this video, they're going to be differences now, but they probably won't be in the near future. So just keep that in mind. This is what the headlights used to look like on the Model 3. Now you have this much sleeker, low profile, kind of more angry, squinted eye look, whereas this is a little bit more open here. And you're going to have LED fog lights down here, which they removed on the updated Model 3. Tow hook area, same spot, and you have the same little mouth at the bottom for some ventilation to cool that battery off. And then you're going to have a front trunk on both, but the dimensions are going to be slightly different. So you're going to get a deeper front trunk here, but as far as dimensionally, they're about the same. This one's just noticeably deeper, and the tow hook has been relocated. So on the Model 3, it's up against the sidewall here, whereas on the Model Y, it's at the floor. And then the windshield wiper fluid port location moved from up top on the Model Y to down in front on the Model 3. And that will probably change when the Model Y gets updated, but we don't have confirmation on that necessarily, but just projecting. Now, I will give you guys dimensions on screen between these two models. Dimensionally, they're going to be different, right? The Model Y does ride higher, but it's not as dramatic as you'd think. I mean, you can look at them side by side, but you notice this part right here. It's much taller up on the Model Y, a little bit more low profile here on the Model 3, and you feel that inside the cabin. You sit much lower to the ground, you can't see as high over the hood, things like that in the Model 3 as you can in the Model Y. And obviously mechanically they're a little bit different. This is a single motor in the back for the rear wheel drive, 0 to 60 in about 5.8 seconds, and has about 272 miles of range, whereas the Model Y here, this Performance, gets about 279 miles to the full charge. It has a larger battery pack, it's all-wheel drive, you have motors in the front and the back, and this has a 0 to 60 at 3.5 seconds. So noticeably quicker off the line than the Model 3 rear-wheel drive for sure, but both are perfectly adequate for normal everyday driving and passing on both highway and city streets. And even the Model 3 rear-wheel drive, which is one of the slowest Teslas you can get, it is still much, much quicker and responsive than almost any gas vehicle you can buy. But outside of the headlight redesign and the removal of the fog lights, there's not that much different in the front of the vehicle. Let's hop to the back. So moving to the back of both of these vehicles, you're going to notice some subtle differences. Some of them are package differences. So obviously this is a Performance, so you get the carbon fiber spoiler, you get the dual motor badging with the line indicating that it is a Performance trim, whereas over here on the rear wheel drive, we do not have a carbon fiber spoiler, although we do have one. Up on the Ludicrous, when that eventually comes out, I'm sure we'll get a nice big carbon fiber spoiler. And then there's no other badging indicating anything because this isn't a dual motor. If it was, you'd have that same badging. And then obviously the taillights have been redesigned over here on the new Model 3. They're a nice clean kind of claw shape to them, and the entire taillight actually goes up with the liftgate, whereas over here you can tell they are split on this older design here on the Model Y. I'm interested to see what they do on the new Model Y, if they go ahead and just replicate this same design, or if because of how the tailgate opens differently, if they keep a split design but just kind of reconfigure it, make it look a little different. I'm not really sure what they'll do. Now, you can also notice that the Tesla word is spelled out here, whereas you just have the Tesla badge on the Model Y. I'm sure that'll change in 2025, but we'll have to see for sure. If we go ahead and open them up, they both have power lift gates. And you can see the diffuser area is also pretty similar. I just wanted to point that out. And you can see that since I lifted the tailgate up and it took the taillight with it, you actually get some little lights here that let you know that your car is on and in park and whatever. So you, in case you're on the side of the road or something, you'll still have some light there, even though they're up here on the trunk. But obviously over here on the Model Y, you're gonna have a decent bit more storage space, but the Model 3 definitely holds its own. About 30 cubic feet of cargo space here on the Y with the second row seats up. Second row seats up on the 3, you get about 21 cubic feet of cargo space. If you fold the seats down on the Model 3, you're gonna get about 44 cubic feet. Second row seats down on the Model Y, about 76 cubic feet. So that really, starts to kind of push the Model 3 out of the way when it comes to cargo space. But with the second row seats up, the Model 3 is competitive there. The main difference is just gonna be the opening. Obviously, this is a saloon style opening, so it's a little bit harder to get larger and taller objects in without turning them on their side. And then you're obviously restricted by the height of the liftgate here. Whereas over here on the Y, you've got a much taller liftgate. It doesn't get in your way. You can put larger objects in without any issue. You do have storage pockets on either side in both the Y and the 3. You've got underfloor storage on both models as well, although it's much larger over on the Y. And then you do have this cargo shade here on the Y as well, which is really nice. It kind of magnets into place there, pops up. And then you do have these little toggles you can drop the second row seats with, which is convenient. You don't have that on the 3. If you want to drop the seats on the 3, you got to actually get inside, drop them down like that. But you still get plenty of cargo space over on the 3. I'm a videographer and I haven't had any issues transporting all of my gear, and that's just with the trunk. If I needed extra space, I could drop the second row seats or just put stuff on them. Plenty of space in both models. All right, I wanted to hop in the Y cabin first to kind of set a baseline for what I'm talking about. And that is mainly going to be revolving around the redesign, right? So things I noticed right off the bat because I daily the Model 3 over there. Different steering wheel altogether, looks completely different, feels more refined, more cleaned up. Obviously no stocks is a huge one. You've got wipers and turn signal on this stock, and then you can shift with this stock and put it in park and autopilot and FSD and all that kind of stuff over here. The screen has noticeably thinner bezels, in my opinion, between the Y and the 3. And again, all of these things I expect to change when we get the updated Model Y. They're probably going to get rid of the stocks. They're going to redesign the steering wheel to match the 3 over there. So all this stuff is going to change and may even have already been announced by the time this video goes live. But I just wanted you guys to know if you're going to be picking up or directly comparing a 2024 Model Y and a 2024 Model 3, you guys know what the differences are. Another big one are the door materials. In my opinion, the materials that the Model 3 is made out of currently is an entire step up above what the Y is currently made of. This is the most expensive Y you can buy. That is the cheapest Model 3 you can buy. So over here on the door, this soft touch is similar, but there's a lot of plastic. You got, kind of a suede material on the door panels, which is what you're gonna have on the higher end Model 3 over there. And the armrests feel similar, but then down below that, you hear that? That's all hard black plastic. You do not have that over on the Model 3. And the carpet also feels noticeably better over on the 3 than it does here on the Y. Across the dash, you do have that soft touch material like you have on the 3, but then you have all this plastic and then plastic. This is kind of a soft touch here, but then once you get under that, you get a lot of plastic. So a big difference, in my opinion, between the 3 and the Y. All of this kind of area has been updated and is cleaner and more refined. Another thing that you're gonna get different is the way that the vents work. Over here on the Model Y, you cannot disable the passenger side air vent. You can do that on the Model 3 because it has the 2.0 HVAC system, which this Model Y does not have. But again, we'll get. One of the biggest things that I noticed between the Model Y and the Model 3 is just the visibility out the back. Now let me preface this and say, neither of them are very good. I think Tesla really wants you to use the camera system, and that's why they have such good cameras here for Hardware 4, but the visibility out the back of the Y is just pretty bad. The window is very squinty and very tiny. So I think this is kind of a running theme we're seeing on all these different Tesla models, even on their newest and greatest, like the Model 3 and the Cybertruck. It's like they just want to get rid of this rearview mirror altogether, and to be completely honest, I'd be fine with that. If they wanted to feed one of these cameras up into this rearview mirror, totally fine by me. Eliminate the back window altogether. I know they probably can't for legal reasons, but that'd be totally fine with me. But this seems like the worst of both. Not only is it really hard to see out of, but you don't have a camera here. So you're stuck just looking at this, which is fine, it looks great, but it's just a little bit of a limitation in my opinion. Though you're gonna have the same magnets that clip the visors here and then fold down this mirror portion, but that's where the magnet similarities stop. Over on the Model 3, you're gonna have magnetic armrests that snap into place. This has actual physical clips, and then the glove box as well is going to be non-magnetic over here. It's gonna snap into place whereas over there, it's got a nice crisp when you magnet it back into place. You have similar, dual charging pads here on both models. The center console area is a little bit different. I actually don't mind it here on the Model Y either, but you've got your USB ports in a different position here. Cup holder's a little bit different, and then center console's a little bit different. So just a couple, rearranging of things. Another thing I noticed as different is these lights. So over on my Model 3, you just tap them like this, and then they're touch capacitive and they turn off. These, you actually physically click them. And it's really going to be up to you which you guys prefer. I prefer touch capacitive, but I know a lot of people don't. So that's really just up to you. Now, as you can see these speakers here, you've got speakers all over this car. This has the kind of last generation top of the line audio system, and it sounds really good. A lot more kind of bass heavy, I think, than the other system on my Model 3. I have the black interior on mine. This has the white interior here. It's absolutely beautiful. Big difference though, no perforations here on this version of the white seats. If you were to get white seats on the Model 3, you would get perforations, and that makes a massive difference. You have that just slight air pass through. And then if you really need it, you can crank that ventilation through there and really keep your back nice and cool. But again, that'll change next year. And obviously you'll get ambient lighting next year too. And I'm really looking forward to them taking the Model Y to the next level and making it like the must-get SUV in the electric space, in any space, not just the electric space, the SUV space, period. This next Model Y with all of these, Model 3 updates kind of trickling over, it's gonna be killer. But as far as front seat volume, it feels pretty similar to my Model 3 outside of the entry and exit. It feels a lot easier than having to crouch down and get into a sedan, but that's completely personal preference. If you prefer the sedan feel, you're gonna love the Model 3. I'm used to an SUV, so this entry and exit feels a little bit more natural to me. So I mentioned the premium feel of the updated Model 3. Well, over here on the Model Y, if you kind of push on the headliner, it's a little bit like plasticky. Like it feels like they just kind of glued this fabric piece onto plastic. Whereas over on the Model 3, while it doesn't feel like luxurious necessarily, it doesn't have this creaky plastic feel, and if you push on it, your finger kind of depresses into the material, so it's got a little bit of a squish to it, whereas this has no squish. I do love the continuous glass though, not having that separate bar down the center. I think that's a nice touch that the Model Y has over the Model 3. And one more note about the stalks is obviously you don't have auto shift, although Tesla has mentioned that they might bring auto shift to vehicles that do have stalks. So I hope they do that for my uncle's sake, because I really, really love auto shift and I've gotten so used to just getting in, tapping my foot on the brake and just driving or reversing whatever I need and not having to actually click a stalk or having to swipe on the screen. You really just don't have to do that at all. Auto shift works really, really well. I'd say like 95% of the time. Now here in the back, you can definitely tell the difference in passenger volume. I mean, it's kind of funny though, you sit really low down compared to the driver's seat. So like the driver's seat is right in front of your face here. You can't see like over their head or anything like that. Even with the driver's seat pretty far back here, you still get, 3-4 inches of leg room, good headroom. You're right up against the glass here, makes it feel really bright and airy. And you get decent shoulder room as well. Not the best, but it's decent for this size. But I mean, this floor space is just way better than it is over on the 3. You just feel less, constricted. And you get an armrest here with some cup holders, and then you can use this button back here and lean these seats back a little bit if you want even more of a comfortable seating position. You've got vents back here, 2 USB-C ports, but obviously you don't have the screen back here that you have over on the 3 that lets you control like the passenger seating position, play games, watch YouTube, Netflix, control, your vent position, things like that, because you don't have any vents like this has. So some people may prefer not having the screen back here. I kind of like having the screen. I think it's a cool little touch, but we're expecting to get that 8-inch screen in the back of the Y very soon in 2025. So if you want that screen, just wait a little bit. Now, before we hop in the Model 3 cabin, there's one other thing I wanted to mention about the Model Y. And this again has to do with the kind of build quality and just overall fit and finish of the 2 models. They've done a lot of improvements to the Model 3 in the way that the door latches together and just the punch that it has when you shut the door. And that's something that is definitely lacking in the current Model Y. So I'm gonna give you guys sound tests on the front doors, back doors, and tailgate of both of these models so you can kind of hear the differences between the 2. So it's almost like higher pitched over here and more rattly than it is over here on the Model 3. The Model 3 has more of a distinctive thud sound, more of a deeper thud, and less rattle than the Model Y has. just higher pitched. Also, the unlocking mechanism sounds a little higher pitched and less premium over here on the Model Y. Just deeper. All right, let's do tailgates now. So as you can probably tell, the Model Y has more of a high-pitched, kind of thinner sound, whereas it's much beefier over on the Model 3. And again, I expect that to change when they update the Model Y, but just so you guys know. All right, so back in the cabin of my Model 3, this is what I'm used to, this is what I feel comfortable in. And again, just all the things just jump out at me right away after spending the day in the Model Y cabin. The thinner bezels, super noticeable. The material on the charging pad is a little bit different. Obviously, the center console mechanism is different, but you know, that could change next year. But man, guys, just the fit and finish of everything. There's no squeaks, there's no rattles. Everything is squishy, like I said, with the headliner. It's got a nice squish to it up top. It's like they put an extra little insulating layer between. It might be exactly the same plastic, but the fact that they added just that little indentation with your finger just makes all of the difference. Obviously, these lights touch capacitive, like I said, you can just tap those on and off. And definitely the visibility is better in the Model 3 out the back window than it is in the Model Y. So if that's a big deal to you and you don't want to use the camera systems, maybe go with the Model 3. Then just over here, the soft touch here, the nice fabric. Obviously the ambient lighting is a big difference in the Model 3, but I'm sure we'll get that in future models. Another thing, the stitching is a little bit different on the actual grab handle here of the door. So on the Model Y, it's just a single stitch at the bottom. Here on the Model 3, you have double stitch, which just extra layer of premium. And then the steering wheel, just all the difference in the steering wheel. It's less bulky. It's got a nice clean design. Buttons on the steering wheel don't bother me. If they bother you, try to get a Y then, because you'll still have the stalks. But having all of my controls just at my fingertips without me having to move my hand a little bit off the steering wheel has been great. And to be honest, I was so used to not having stalks that when I got in that, I was trying to push the steering wheel button. So it's crazy how quickly you can adjust to not having stalks. So if people tell you it's this huge deal and you live in the US, just trust me, you'll get used to it, no problem. All this material up top is super squishy, feels really good, it's pretty clean. And again, these are both brand new vehicles, so it's not like his is older, so it's more beat up. No, these are brand new, and I just prefer the fit and finish of the Model 3. And I'm not just saying that because it's my car. I'm trying to objectively review both of these things. I think that when they fix it over in the Model Y to bring it up to the Model 3 level of premium, the Model Y is going to be even better than it already is. But just having those perforations in the seat, like I said over there, makes such a difference. I can turn on my ventilated seats here, get my back cooled off, but just having that extra layer of airflow is all of the difference here. Big glass roof still looks great. Having this bar, you know, obviously it's hard to see as a driver. Mostly you just see this, but you do sit noticeably lower. Like I had to lower my camera tripod a little bit between the two cars because of the difference in height. And again, I'll have all dimensions on screen for you guys throughout this video, so try and make it as helpful as possible if you guys are deciding between these two models. But everything on the display works really well on both models, regardless of how thick the bezels around it are. It's super buttery smooth on both, no issues there. The cameras are both hardware 4 cameras, so they look great on both models. No issues with that. Charging, obviously the charging speed is faster over on the Model Y because it's a higher trim level. You get 250 kilowatt fast charging, whereas you only get 170 kilowatt fast charging here on my Model 3. That is what it is. You get what you pay for a little bit there. If you're interested in more of my driving impressions, I have full reviews of both of these vehicles, the Model Y and this Model 3 here. I'll have them linked down in the description and in the card above. All right, and finally, sitting in the back of the Model 3, it's still super comfortable. Now, some of the big things you'll notice, like I said, the seats are almost completely on the ground, so you really don't have much room, if any, to tuck your feet up underneath. You still get good legroom, though. I mean, that's still an inch or two of legroom, and this seat's really far back. This is the easy exit position, so if I was up where I would normally sit, I mean, you would have tons of rear knee room, especially. It's just tucking your feet up underneath isn't great. And then the actual seats, you know, there's a big gap between the actual seat and where your knees hit, so it's kind of an awkward knee position. So I tend to like tilt my leg to the side like this to get some, you know, pressure off of my knee there. The door materials over here are just really, really great. I can't say enough good things about how Tesla's taken it up a notch here in 2024 on the Model 3 and soon on the Model Y. But the back, you know, it still has this kind of more hard back end here, but it still has this soft touch to it. It's like I'm saying. Over on the back seats of the Model Y, it's just plastic on the back. Now, you may or may not like this redesign on the little map pockets here. All of this down here is all soft touch. It's just really, really nice. So you do have this screen back here. You can control things like your back seat. You can lean it back. You can turn on your heated seats for outboard passengers. You can play music, play games, you know, all kinds of stuff. And you can adjust where the air comes out of these little, you know, control-less vents right here. And then you do still have those 2 USB-C ports that you have over on the Y. And you get a nice little bit of foot room there if you want to move your foot over there. But again, these seats, they're very, very comfortable with the perforations. And then this headrest is fixed in place, but it does fold down, giving you a nice long armrest. It's a little bit wobbly, but you cannot recline these seats at all. So they stay in this fixed position. Even if you grab this button, they don't move at all. Now the lights again are touch capacitive here on the top panel. And then you have little hooks again that fold out. These are a little bit more premium feel to them, both here and here. So just little things here and there. So thanks so much for watching, guys. Drop a like on the video if you loved it. Tell me in the comments down below, which do you prefer? Do you like my Model 3 Highland rear-wheel drive? Or do you like my uncle's Model Y Performance? I like both, but I want to hear what you guys have to say down in the comments. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button to be among the first to see every single new video the second I hit publish. We'll see you in the next one.